Joni Lamb is the co-founder and president of the Daystar television network. She is being accused of sexual abuse and alleged cover-ups as part of a very troubling and complicated family issue. Lamb's recent video comments tried to make her position clearer while denying any wrongdoing. However, the controversy has grown because of different accounts, public scrutiny, and media coverage. The background of the claims. The claims are based on what Lamb's son said. Jonathan and his wife Suzy are having an affair with a family member they call Pete. Their 5-year-old daughter was sexually abused by Pete, they say, during a family vacation in August 2021. The case is more complicated because their daughter reported improper contact at preschool in November 2020. There have been strong claims that Joni Lamb and her late husband, Marcus Lamb, told lies about any abuse. Instead, she gave her story of what happened, which was very different from what Jonathan and Suzy said. The event of 2020. Joni Lamb talked about her role in the 2020 preschool incident. She said that Suzy called her after their granddaughter told that a friend had touched her inappropriately. Lamb went to school with Suzy to tell them what was going on. Lamb says the problem was fixed when the school stepped in, and the family later found out that the child was itchy. At first thought to have something to do with the event was caused by eczema. The event at the family retreat in 2021. The 2021 incident took place at a beach house where a family was on vacation. Lamb said that her granddaughter was putting on swimsuits in a shared bedroom while Pete was there with the child's brother and a baby in his arms. Lamb said that what happened was a bad mistake. Jonathan challenged Pete and said that he didn't mean to do anything wrong. On the other hand, Jonathan and Suzy say that Pete went upstairs with their daughter by himself and was there while she changed. They say Lamb told them not to call the police and tried to play down how bad things were. Suzy says that after Lamb talked to their daughter, the child shut down emotionally and wouldn't talk about the claimed abuse anymore, looking into things and finding problems. An investigative news site called the Roy's Report has been at the head of covering this story. Their report said that the case was initially closed because the child wouldn't talk about what they said happened. This was changed after a counselor told Texas officials about it in 2022. The story is still being looked into. Daystar wants the Roy's Report story to be taken down because he thinks it is false. But the news source stands by what it wrote. In a video, Joni Lamb, co-founder and president of Daystar Television Network, denied claims that she covered up abuse. Friends Cindy Murdoch, Dorothy Newton, Cindy Johnston, and Anna Kendall asked Lamb questions, which you can see on the tape. In contrast to her last video message, Lamb gave more information about what happened on the day that her family member, named Pete, is accused of sexually abusing her 5-year-old niece during a family retreat in August 2021 and another time in November 2020. The information was made public on November 25th. In November 2020, Jonathan's wife Suzy called me to say that there had been an incident at my granddaughter's preschool. That was the first time I knew about any abuse. And she told me that a little boy had touched her and her friend. Suzy called me and asked if I would go to school with her, Lamb said. I replied, yes, of course. Lamb said that she went to school with Suzy and that she told the school about it. Of course, I was there to encourage her, as I would for any child, but especially my granddaughter, she said. That was the event that took place. Then Lamb said that the things Jonathan and Suzy Lamb said about her that were written about in Roy's report were taken out of context. She said that event took place in 2020, and I was there. Suzy had even called me to go there. Jonathan and Suzy say that Pete, Jonathan's brother-in-law, abused their 5-year-old daughter sexually at a family retreat in 2021. They have been talking about Pete secretly. Lamb said that another event had been written about, and that event took place at our family vacation. That was in 2021, when we were all living in the same house. My two older grandkids were staying in a bedroom on the second floor. It was a long room with a bunk bed on one side and another bunk bed on the other. Lamb went on. So my grandson was saying that he had a view of the city and his sister had a view of the beach. So one afternoon he was talking about that while someone named Pete held a 1-year-old boy in the room. The grandson and Pete went up the stairs and Pete had the baby. Lamb said, "Those details have been left out." Lamb told everyone that she was in the house during the alleged sexual abuse and heard the whole talk. My granddaughter went into the room and sat down next to her while Pete, the baby, and my grandson looked out the window at the city. When Lamb's grandson and son-in-law were looking out the window, her 5-year-old granddaughter put on her bathing suit. Lamb said that Pete reportedly abused her while he was in the room. Lamb also said that Jonathan ran up the stairs and asked Pete, "What are you doing in here while she's changing right about that time?" Pete replied, "What do you have planned?" Roy's story didn't match up with what Jonathan and Suzy said about what happened. They said Pete was by himself and followed their 5-year-old daughter upstairs as she changed into her swimsuit. Later, Roy's report changed the original story to say, "Our initial report said Pete was alone in the room with Jonathan and Suzy's daughter. Pete had a baby in his arms. Jonathan and Suzy's son was sleeping on a bunk bed across the room." Pete's answer to Jonathan was, I'm sorry, Lamb remembered. Lamb said she doesn't know if Pete saw anything because the 8-year-old was there and Pete was holding the baby. After the event, Lamb said Marcus led a family meeting. Lamb remembered that Marcus talked to and it was clear that nothing happened. Joni Lamb says it is completely false that she covered up any sexual abuse. The Roy study says that before the 2021 beach house incident, Suzy says that Marcus and Joni Lamb worked to protect Pete and Daystar's image instead of their own granddaughter when they learned that Pete, their son-in-law, might have sexually abused their granddaughter. When Suzy and Joni went to their granddaughter's school in 2020 to report suspected abuse by a classmate, Joni talked about this event. Suzy also says that the day her daughter told her about the claimed sexual abuse by a family member, Lamb told her son and daughter-in-law not to call the cops and to bring the child to her instead so she could talk to her granddaughter alone. Suzy says that their daughter wouldn't talk about what she says happened after Lamb talked to her about it. She became what Suzy called a lockbox, according to Roy's report. Jonathan and Suzy still went to the police to make a report, but the rest of the family didn't know about it. Because their daughter wouldn't talk about it, the cops closed the case. Based on Roy's report, the case has been reopened after the counselor for their daughter reported the claimed sexual abuse to the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services (DFPS). Then, DFPS sent a fax to the Texas Colleyville Police Department. The report has a different case number than the 2020 report that was made before it. Was filed on February 26th and says it's being looked into. Newton asked Lamb if she and Marcus hid the truth about the sexual abuse claims in her family. Lamb replied, "This story was written by a low-level blogger who doesn't know anything and has never heard the other side of the story. He's trying to hurt my family and does nothing but that." When Lamb talked about Roy's and the fact that this is being brought up again when it doesn't make sense just blew my mind. Rachel, Joni's daughter, shared pictures from a text message she had with Suzy on November 26th about what happened at school. Rachel said that Suzy was suspicious because her little girl was pinching her private parts. Rachel's social media post says that Suzy asked her daughter what was itching, and the daughter told her mother that a boy at school had put his hand up her dress in the canteen. As a safety measure, Suzy took her baby to see a pediatrician. Suzy said, "Thank God the doctor found no damage, scars, UTIs, or infections." Rachel was itching, and Suzy told her that she thought it was because of a dairy allergy. Suzy also told Rachel that she was sending her daughter back to school because that boy isn't there anymore and she loves her class and teacher. After 4 months, Suzy sent Rachel a picture of her daughter and told her that they finally knew why her daughter was hurting her private parts. Exuma is a bad person. The same thing on her neck, arms, and that part of the body. Suzy remembers that the incident on the beach in 2021 finished in a different way. Suzy told Roy's report that she and Jonathan were called to the elder Lamb's bedroom and told to pray and turn away from their sins. Shepherd told Lamb's family the next day that God told her during her prayer time that Pete was not guilty. Jonathan told the Roy's report about the incident at the beach house in 2021. Suzy and I have had a strict rule that Pete and his wife can never be alone with our daughter, and he has never been in our home, Jonathan said. On the beach in 2021, Joni Lamb says nothing changed. Marcus Lamb, 64, died soon after the incident at the beach house in 2021 from complications linked to COVID-19. Lamb said that her family encouraged her family, the Lamb family minus Rebecca, and her family. In June 2022, they went on a family trip. Jonathan and Suzy told Roy's report that they went because Lamb insisted that the whole family go for her sake since she was a new widow and they felt bad for her. Joni Lamb talks about how the accusations from Jonathan and Suzy have made her feel. Lamb told her friends that things have been hard. "I put on a happy face for work, but when I get home, tears come out. I get really sad sometimes because I love my son, my daughter-in-law, and my grandchildren so much. That Jonathan and Suzy had put me in a bad spot, and she said, 'I'm sorry we have to sit here and talk about this.'" As church leaders looked into the claims against Daystar and Jonathan and Suzy, they found a video on social media of Jonathan and Pete laughing and playing golf together a year after the alleged beach house incident. Jonathan can be seen laughing and singing with his brother-in-law in the film. In response, Suzy wrote in the comments, "Bahaha Funder." Yesterday, November 24th, Daystar asked the Roy's report to retract Jonathan and Suzy's story, saying that the whole premise of the piece is a lie, based on false accusations of sexual abuse and a supposed cover-up. In that case, you and Roy's report should quickly take back everything they said. The Roy's report said on social media that it has no plans to do what Daystar wants and goes by what it has reported. Marcus Rogers is an author, preacher, evangelist, and social media star. This week, Jonathan and Suzy met with him and told him their story. People in the church asked Daystar if he was going to sue Jonathan and Suzy for libel, which was something Jonathan was warned about in his letter of firing. Church leaders were told by an unnamed person that Daystar is thinking about what it can do. Church leaders have also asked Suzy Lamb for a word on social media, and we will let you know if we hear back.